slow, is it? Okay. Is it better now?
Yes,
Yeah.
better.
You guys can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, guys. So yesterday we just started on the basics of the payments. Okay. So we just learned the definition of the payment. We learned about what exactly is the financial institution and its role in terms of the payment, and what does central bank do and what is its definition, right? We learn about the different account terminologies, which includes nostro, vostro, lotto, nostro, mirror account, and then we learn about this master account, which is held at the central bank. Then we pitched into key elements of the payment and the settlement system, under which we have this messaging, we have this clearing and the settlement. We learn what exactly message plays the role in terms of the payments. How does a message standard plays important role for any of the payment schema to decrypt what exactly other party is trying to say. We categorized some of the messages and we understood those as well and seen some of the message sample snippet as well. How does they look like? Today we'll start with the next key element of the payment, that is your clearing. Okay, now clearing is very essential um, for any of the payment system, for the matter of fact, regardless whether it is bilateral or the multilateral or automated clearing house or the any real-time cross settlement system. So what does clearing mean basically? Clearing, to explain it to you in a very layman terminology, okay, I'll just go to my whiteboard and then give you a very basic example of it. Just give me a second. Okay, there's two-person here. One is Ram, another is, you know, Sam. Ram had, lended some amount, let's say 1,000 rupees, and Sam had given back 500, right? So if you see this from the Ram's perspective, it is plus 1,000 and minus 500. This is this is in this particular position. So it is in positive position plus 500. It is still to receive from the Sam, right? Whereas from the Sam point of view, if you see, it is minus 500, meaning it has to pay back 500 to this party, which is Ram. This negative position, it is called as a short position. Okay. Whereas for this positive position is called as a long position in this clearing terminology. Okay. It is also called it as credit position, and this is called it as debit position. So this they are doing this bilateral clearing, and how do they do it? It's just a basic calculation, right? The incoming minus outgoing, right? Right. So this is what it is clearing, and in this that there is a bilateral clearing they are doing.
But is it not from Ram's position? Is it not he's first lending 1,000 and then he is receiving 500? Means it should be minus 1,000 plus 500 only, right?
From Ram's position point of view,
Yeah, because he is lending 1,000 to the
yeah,
other guy.
he is, yeah, no, no, no. So he has given this 1,000 to someone.
That means that minus 1,000, correct? Because
No,
he
no,
is giving his money.
no, no. Always the positive position means it owes. I mean, it has to receive from someone, and always the negative position means it has to pay to someone else. So that's why it's a plus 1,000 minus 500. And basically, your calculation should help you understand whether it is in a positive position or in negative position. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So clearing basic definition is also there available, which means it is a reconciling and netting system before the actual settlement of the money or financial obligation can be done. Now, basis on this bilateral clearing, which they have done by themselves, you know, they have done the netting and the reconciliation, and basis that they have identified what is their position, and best once you know this, how much another party has to pay, the other party will then transfer it via any other medium. The financial obligation can be made by any other medium, via online, via cash, etc. Right? So that's what the definition of clearing is. It is a reconciling and netting system before the actual movement or actual settlement of the money or financial obligation can be done. Okay, so this is about the definition of clearing. Now, within the clearing also, we have this bilateral clearing, we have this multilateral clearing. Okay. Now, this bilateral and multilateral clearing is something where there isn't any clearing and settlement mechanism involved in it, meaning there is no clearing houses involved in it. It is something where the banks themselves have to do this clearing, right? So there are some challenges when you are doing some multilateral clearing. If you are doing within the country itself, you could imagine there is no real-time cross settlement system in India, and there is no NEFT payment system, or any of these clearing settlement mechanisms are not there, then it is really difficult. I'll explain you how it becomes difficult. So first we'll start with a bilateral clearing, and then we'll go to multilateral clearing. Okay. So what happens in the bilateral clearing basically? The example which we had taken, right? The State Bank of India holding an account in a serious bank, in the bilateral agreement, they have all of this disclosure available here. How the reconciliation will happen, how this clearing will happen, at what time this cutoff USD custom USD cutoff time would be kept, what time the serious bank is supposed to send out this end of the day account statement report, right? This all thing will be there available in the bilateral agreement, and basis that they are doing this bilateral clearing themselves. Now that they have this account here, right, within that account, whatever the information is available, like opening balance, closing balance, and end of the day, available closing balance, all those information would be sent out in this 940 account statement report as well, right? So that we'll discuss once we reach out to this 940 account statement report. But bilateral clearing is the clearing between the two financial institutions without involving any clearing houses, right? If State Bank of India has an offshore account in CDS, they are doing bilateral clearing. They are not needing of any of the RTGS or local clearing and settlement mechanism. It's their agreement between the banks, and they are doing this clearing themselves. Okay. In a situation of a place where the banks have an agreement where they say like throughout the day you just let's have a transfer between each others, and we will do the clearing themselves, that also they can do it, but generally this is how it will be. An escrow account needs to be funded, and that's how the clearing will be done. Yeah, I was telling you about this multilateral clearing. Imagine if there is no clearing and settlement mechanism in India. There are a lot of Indian banks, right, where every year one or other new banks do join in under this Reserve Bank of India. Imagine there is no setup of this local clearing and settlement mechanism. Each of the bank in the India has to reach out to another bank in India. For example, SDFC has to reach out to the Bank of Baroda. They need to open up in one account, and they need to have this bilateral agreement between each others, and so on with all those 100 plus banks which we have it in India, nationalized, private, etc. Right? So for them, this clearing, it becomes a very tedious task as well. And it definitely becomes the netting becomes quite complex. And for new bank, imagine it has to reach out to all the banks for setting up the connection, which is nothing but your messaging relationship and as well as the accounting relationship. Thereby, the risk of the settlement isn't higher as after the clearing settlement is done, right? So it doesn't make sense when you are trying to do the payments within the country. You cannot, I mean, If there is a few banks, it is well and fine, but every country has their own clearing and settlement mechanism for that region, right? So that the local banks can have a smooth payment features without any issue. And that's when the every country, in fact, right, not only in India, every country has their payment system in place by which the local payment can be done. In India, we call it as RTGS for for the real-time gross settlement system. We have this NEFT payment system as well in India. We have this IMPS payment system also available in India, and in future you might see some more clearing systems coming in, which provides the local payment features as well. So, what does this clearing house means then? The clearing house is an organization or a system authorized by the central bank or the government where the financial institution or banks agrees to exchange the payments, securities, or any other financial obligations. So if any of the bank wants to, ensure that the payment has to go by RTGS, they need to onboard themselves at which RTGS payment schema. So there is a process that happens where the central bank will be onboarding the respective banks if the banks is willing to provide the feature of making the payment via the respective system, for example, RTGS, NEFT, and etc. Right? So that is there. Only when they are onboarded at this respective payment system, they would be able to make the payment. There are a lot of things undergoes before it onboards. So these are all basically under this central bank itself. It is not a private entity. It is under this central bank. They have formed different entity, and then the systems are formed, and basically it is an organization which is authorized by the central bank, where financial institution, do sign the agreement where they can exchange the payment with where they can exchange the payment or securities or any other financial obligations, right? How it works, uh, one payment system works different than that of other payment system. Time taken can be very different than that of other system as well, right? Depending upon what kind of payment system the customer chooses to. Okay. And then this, what do you call it, a settlement. A settlement basically is nothing but an act that discharges the obligations with respect to funds or securities transferred between two or more parties. So once you have done the clearing, you know that what is the position and how much you need to pay off to the another party. All you need to do is the move the funds, right? The settlement is that process, which is an act to discharge the obligations, right? It consists of the paying of the debts. Now within the settlement itself, we have multiple types. We have net settlement, and then we have this gross settlement. Okay. So first we'll see this net settlement.
I have a query here.
Mhm.
What
Go
is the
ahead.
role of the central bank of the Fed Reserve for a bilateral settlement?
For bilateral settlement, for an example, in State Bank of India and Sirius Bank, you mean to say?
Yes. Yeah.
Settlement, there is no role, but for your payments, right, the information that it is coming cross-border, right, those
Mhm.
information, it goes to the local central regulatory applications. That is it,
So
right?
ideally, every transfer which happens passes through the central bank of the Fed Reserve. Am I correct?
If it is, yes, I mean, it depends on country to country how exactly it is. It is a Y copy mode or a T copy mode where the message copy is sent to the central regulatory applications. But in settlement, there is nothing, no role in this. They do not hold any account of the respective banks
Okay.
for the cross-border payment because it is all happening in the nostro account of the respective country's bank, right? So it's like that.
Okay.
Okay. As I was telling you about this two types, which is net settlement and the gross settlement, right? So let's start with this net settlement first, and then we'll go ahead with the gross settlement. What does this net settlement mean? As Even though it is not part of our syllabus, right? Yeah, we just wanted to let you know some of the differences between the net settlement and the gross settlement and how it works. It might be useful as well for you. So, net settlement is also called as a automated clearinghouse, and in India, we this kind of net settlement in India, it is also called as the National Electronic Fund Transfer. Here, the difference between that of RTGS is the what do you call it as the way it sends out the files or the information to the respective clearing and settlement mechanism. So here, let's suppose there are multiple banks in the country. Like this, I've taken an example of the Central Bank of United States, and this clearing and settlement mechanism. Let's suppose it is a their local net settlement system, for an example, or India's take it example of your any national electronic fund transfer. So in this, how does it, how the payment is sent, right? So that information I'm explaining it to you. So from bank A point of view, right, they will accumulate all the payments which they are receiving from the customers, where the customer has chosen an EFT or equivalent to that net settlement system. You have an option while you are initiating the transaction from the front-end application, by the way, right? So if you are initiating from your online banking system, you get an option whether you want to make the payment via NEFT or RTGS, right? Those kind of options you get. So if customer has chosen this NEFT payment system, then what bank A does is it receives this instruction and they will accumulate all those transactions and create a batch file for it. So within that half an hour interval, in India, every half an hour the batch runs, right, for the National Electronic Fund Transfer. Previously, it was quite late a bit, but now it's every half an hour this batch runs. So if you are making a transfer via NEFT payment system, nowadays, I believe within half an hour or 1 hour, you will be receiving the fund, whereas earlier it used to take a bit of time, right? So it accumulates all those transactions, whichever it has received from its customers for bank A, from different kind of customers, and then it accumulates and creates a batch file. This batch file will be created. And this batch file, in fact, would be placed in the respective folder path of that SFTP, where it is securely uh, picked up. The file is securely picked up by this settlement mechanism, which is net settlement mechanism. Okay, and in our case, NEFT payment system. Likewise, it happens for all the respective banks where the respective batch file will be picked up. And then at this particular net settlement system, which is NEFT system, what they do is the sorting. Sorting means you identify how many transactions are for this bank C and how many transactions are for bank D and how many transactions are bank B for bank B. And then they will send out those information to the respective banks where they have to take an action to credit, right? And those bank has to do it. So bank A in our example, if you see this particular LTD corporate customer wants to make 100 million to bank D, right? So from here, this instruction goes to bank D, and bank D will then credit to the SAM's account without even getting the money. Basis on the instruction, they will credit to the SAM's account. Likewise, from bank C, the batch file contained a payment instruction where PLC wanted to make a fund transfer to RAM at bank B, so that they have received on receiving the instruction, right? And likewise, all the respective banks have taken a call and then made a transfer to its customer. All of it is happening without the banks even getting their money. Now, remember that yesterday I told you that each of the bank holds a master account, settlement account at the central bank. Even for this net settlement system, also they will have a master account or settlement account held at the central bank. Now, once the respective credit is happened to the respective beneficiary customer, now the clearing and settlement mechanism uh, will share out this respective report where their positions are displayed, right? Statement report where they will be sending out where their positions are shown here. So in each of this report, if you see bank A, this is the report where they are in where they get to know that their position is a 70 million, minus 70 million. Bank B is in a plus 50 million, bank C is in minus 80 million, and bank D is in plus 100 million. So for it is simple, right? So if bank D did not send out any outward request, it received only inward request, which they credited it. So it owes 100 million, right? Bank D owes 100 million from whom? From the clearing and settlement mechanism. So bank D will not go and ask to the banks, hey, bank A or B or C, please credit my 100 million I have taken, or or reach out to bank A to give me my 100 million. So it's this clearing and settlement mechanism who is responsible to ensure the fund they receive it. And where do they get the received fund? They will receive their in their master account, which is held at the central bank. Okay. So once they get this position report, the bank has to respectively transfer it into their master account. If bank A is a minus 70 million, bank A's master account needs to be credited with 70 million in the specified period of time which they have agreed while they have onboarded them onto this clearing and settlement mechanism. Okay. So that they have to do, and the respective other bank also, whoever in a negative position, for an example, bank C will ensure that they will credit into their master account, and then once that is done, then the respective mechanism will debit those respective account, and then they will credit to the respective um, central bank account of the respective bank B and bank D, and they will get notified respectively in the respective format of the message of the NEFT system. Okay. If they accept ISO 2022 messages, then they will have the specific messaging format. If they're using proprietary, then proprietary notification messages will be sent out. So it all depends upon what kind of messaging format they are accepting in the respective payment system. So overall, if you see this clearing and settlement mechanism is bearing the risk. Remember, I told you like the bank has to credit to its customer on receiving the instruction, but the bank D has not yet received the fund. It's an agreement. This kind of a payment is such that the payment is received later only once the settlement is done to the customer, right? And it is an agreement between the bank. There are chances that a bank can default it, and the risk for this defaulting has to be borne by the clearing and settlement mechanism. However, the agreement is such placed in such a way that if it is defaulting, then there would be certain, clause would be there or action would be there since it is under the central bank. So definitely the banks might not do it, but if it happens, then they have this agreement in place where the necessary action would be taken. Okay. Let me know if you have any question in this. Okay, fine. So this was about the net settlement, okay, where the batch file creation is done from individual bank and it is kept in the respective folder path, acceptable folder pathway to be picked. A lot of things are there here, complexity compared to that of the other system, which I'm going to explain, which is RTGS system. In India, we have this RTGS payment system, which is nothing called as a real-time gross settlement system. So first, let's understand what exactly is a gross settlement system. Every country has their gross settlement system in place, okay? So gross settlement system is nothing but a system in which the settlement or fund transfer occurs individually after each payment transaction is processed in the system. And real-time gross settlement definition is also available, which means real-time is the fund transfer happening right away if the funds are available in the debtors account. And gross settlement means the transaction is settled one-to-one basis. So that's the name given. That's why the name is given as RTGS. The name of this RTGS, the real-time gross settlement system is there in every country. The name might vary. For example, in UAE, you have UAE FTS, right? Um, and in USA, it is called as a Fedward payment system, right? The principle of working of this kind of a payment system in every country is there, and it's more or less same only how it works for in India for RTGS payment system. Now, in this particular flow, if let's say here I have taken an example. Now, each of the payment system, right? NEFT payment system has their own master account or the settlement account, and for this particular payment system, RTGS, they would have a separate master account or settlement account again held at the central bank. Okay. Let's take an example here. LTD is a corporate customer here who wants to make a fund transfer of USD 20 million to another party here, which is PLC, who holds an account at a Stancer Bank US. Okay. So LTD um, initiates the transaction from its corporate channel or corporate banking channel, and it instructs to make the payment to the PLC customer. CTUS then receives this instruction, then they validate, necessary validation will be done, and then post that they will create a respective message format of your customer credit transfer uh, in the respective format which the system accepts. If it is a Fedwire, then a Fedwire customer credit transfer format would be accepted. Now, since that Fedwire is also planning to migrate into ISO 2022, let's imagine it is a practice rate format they have created and it has sent to the system. Here, if you remember, there's no batch creation. CTUS is not creating any batch file and not accumulating transaction and not waiting for half an hour interval to place the file in the respective folder path, right? It is happening then and there itself, right? Customer has initiated, CTUS Bank validated and created the respective message and sent out the instruction to the RTGS payment system. Now, RTGS payment system, on receiving this payment instruction from the CTUS Bank, what it will do is they will then check. I mean, this is all integrated between the central bank and RTGS payment system, okay? Wherein their validation of the balances available into the CTUS bank account is enough to carry this 20 million transaction or not, right? So that validation will happen, and other important message related validation will also happen in the respective payment system. And post that, the what do you call it as debit of this particular CTUS bank master account from the 50 million, they will debit it, and then they will credit the Stanza Bank US settlement account again, which is held at the central bank, right? And they both will be notified also with the debit advice and the credit advice in the respective messaging format which they accepted. Okay, so it can be in a ISO format. If it is ISO format, cash management 054. If it is MT format, is MT 900 for debit and MT 900 for 910 for the credit, right? And the RTGS payment system, once this settlement is done at the central bank's account of the respective banks, they get notified also. Now the RTGS systems then forwards this PAX08 message to the Stanza Bank US, right? Now the Stanza Bank US, on receiving the respective message, customer credit transfer payment message, and also they have already received the credit advice message. They don't mind crediting the beneficiary customer. Reason behind is they have been notified already by the respective system that their account has been credited. And then post that they will credit to the beneficiary customer, the respective accounting entries would take place. Now, if you see, this payment system is much more simple, compared to that of your net settlement system. Here, first of all, bank do not have to wait for that long to send out this instruction to the respective system to make the payment. And the clearing and settlement mechanism do not have to bear any sort of risk. Reason behind is only when the respective bank's settlement account has enough fund, it would be able to process it. Otherwise, it will hold or it can reject the payment if the instruction is received. Okay. So it's a one-to-one settlement as we discussed. There is no batch file creation is required. It does not have to wait half an hour interval or as such, right? Some country has a cutoff time, right? In India earlier it was there probably, but I believe right now there is no cutoff for this RTGS payment system. You can make 24/7 now, I believe somewhere around 2020 or 21, it was made as 24/7. So in RTGS payment system, right, generally in any other country also, there will be a different business period, by the way. A different business period will be there. Let's suppose 8:30 a.m. in the morning at the start of the day, for example. This is the name of this business period. Second will be, system housekeeping. Period 3, they might have this exchange all type where they accept both your financial institution transfers and customer credit transfer. Financial institution transfer means it's a bank to bank related transfers. Customer credit transfer meaning it is customer related transfer. Later point of time, I'll explain you what is financial institution transfer. Customer credit transfer, as you know, it's a normal payment which they have to. So they will define this particular timing, okay, 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. for example, and 5 p.m. Uh, cutoff. So 5 p.m. would be your cutoff time, and then 5 will be your reporting period would be there, where each of the bank will be sent out with this account statement report, and end of the day ban end of the business day. Yeah. So this things would be there for the respective real-time gross settlement system of the individual country, where they get notified this information that cutoff has raised. Now the payment transaction initiated after this particular period of time will be processed on the next business day. So this kind of things also would be there in their systems. So why did we learn about this local payment system while our training is in this international payment system? The reason behind is we going forward, we would have a lot of this kind of scenarios where we will see that the international payment, let's take an example of this, where Ram wanted to make a fund transfer to one of its friend who holds an account in Standard Chartered Bank, US. Okay. So his friend is Sam, who is in United States holding an account in Standard Bank, US. Ram, let's suppose it holds an account in State Bank of India. Okay. I'm instructed the payment transaction from any of the channel which they have received from the respective State Bank of India. Let's say an online banking system. It has populated all the details of the beneficiary customer. Here, State Bank of India, on receiving this instruction, then it will do a series of payment hub validations, basically validation on this outward request. And then as part of that, they have found that they have this, they don't have any sort of relationship with the Standard Bank US, but there is a bank who can indeed help them to make the front transfer. So their currency correspondent bank, let's suppose, is there, where they already have this accounting relationship, right? Their Nostro is there, account basically, right? USD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. And they also have the messaging relationship, right? Messaging that is via Swift RMA relationship is there. That we'll discuss later point of time. So CTUS on receiving this request, let's suppose it is MT103 or PAX 08, it is same customer credit transfer message only. And CTUS, this they have received via the Swift network. Now CTUS has received this instruction, and CTUS now has to send the money transfer to Standard Bank US so that the SAM will get receive the fund. So CTUS is in United States, Standard Bank is in United States. If both the countries' bank are in the same country, if both the banks are in same country, you do not need this uh, SWIFT to make the transfer, right? So what they need is local clearing and settlement mechanism. In this case, they will settle down the payment via Fedwire payment system, wherein they have this central bank accounts, where the CTUS bank will have this, what do you call this, master account. Central Bank US also will have master account. So at this particular point of time, they will debit CTUS and they will credit Central Bank US, right? So Fedwire is equivalent to that of India's RTGS payment system. This is how it will go. The respective messaging format will be sent out here, and then taxes rate. They will get notified via this message, the debit advice message, and they will get notified via credit advice message. So all of this we'll learn in the future. what I am trying to focus is here is this payment system, why it came. This local payment system for the international payment, it came, the reason behind is the correspondent bank and the beneficiary bank are in the same country, and to transfer the fund within the same country, you do not need to again go via the SWIFT network. Am I making sense, guys? Say yes, no, something. If it is going above your head, again, you can let me know as well. Your silence,
Maybe a
I will,
little, it
yeah,
is a
and
little bit going over that.
you're not able to understand this concept. No problem. I'll
A
explain
few
to you.
things are going above. Yeah.
Sure, sure, no problem. Which, I mean, at least this concept of how the payment flow works in net settlement and RTGS is understandable, right?
That's clear.
Right?
But
Yeah.
where
Okay, fine.
exactly it requires within country, maybe that
Ah,
example we don't understand.
no problem. No problem. Fine.
Yeah, just
I'll
repeat that
again.
example. So, yeah.
Yes, sure, sure. I'll explain it to you one more time. So here, I'll explain you the scenario first, and then post it, I'll explain you why it is required the local clearing and settlement system. Okay. So Ram wanted to make a fund transfer to Sam. Okay. Okay. And Ram creates request from the online banking system, online channel fund transfer option is there, and it has selected State Bank of India received this instruction. Now, State Bank of India here, they do not have any relationship, meaning they don't have the Nostro account here held at the Standard Bank US, first of all. They don't have a relationship. So still in our cross-border payment mechanism, we have some payment methods, some mechanism via which you can still make the fund transfer to Standard Bank US, given your intermediary bank or the correspondent bank who is your partner bank in the respective country, right? They can do it, right? So State Bank of India already has their own Nostro account in the CTUS Bank, meaning they have a relationship with the CTUS Bank. Okay. Now, the CTUS Bank has done an agreement as well with the State Bank of India, where they had told that any of your transfer which happens within the United States, you give it to me as an instruction. I will ensure that the fund transfer happens. So CTUS has already one agreement done with the State Bank of India. So as part of that, State Bank of India has sent out an instruction via the SWIFT network, sent out to CTUS, right? And CTUS, what they will do, they will see this instruction, that is message, and they got to know that the beneficiary bank is Standard Chartered Bank US. Okay. Now CTUS is also in the United States of America, and Standard Chartered Bank US is also in the United States of America. Now imagine if payment has to be done between the two banks in the same country, they would not require Swift messaging system. Do they require? No. Why? If they have to do, they can use their local payment system. For an example, in India, if a Bank of Baroda wants to make a payment to SDFC Bank, they will not use Swift network, right? Because it is the same currency payment, right? USD payment. Sorry, it is same currency payment in India for Bank of Baroda to SDFC. So it will use the local payment system instead, right? We have this NEFT, RTGS, this kind of payment system is there. So they will use those payment system. So for CTUS Bank, it came as an international payment and getting settled via the local payment system. Okay. Inward going as outward towards the local payment system. Right? That's why they are sending out an instruction to a system where they have a master account. They can use their master account and settle down the fund to the Standard Chartered Bank US, and then Standard Bank US will settle down the transaction to SAM. Okay. So this is
One
just
doubt.
one. Yeah, go ahead.
One query. Yeah. So the Nostro account which you're talking about, where it has a Nostro account in CTUS, so it means that customer has a Nostro account in CTUS, right? That is
No,
how
no.
it is, right? Or bank in
Nost
between bank, it has an agreement.
so this Nostro account is there, right? This
Yeah,
Nostro
yeah.
account is of State Bank of India. Nostro of State Bank of India.
So it is between the banks, not the
Yes,
customer.
yes. Nostro and Vostro is all about the banks.
Okay, okay.
It is not
But
the customer.
so customer will not have any idea. Customer will just make the payment. It will
Yeah,
go
yeah.
where those channel. Okay.
Customer is least bother what is happening, how the payment
Yeah.
is getting settled. All
Okay.
they want is the beneficiary get credited with the amount which he have instructed. Let's say 1,000
Okay.
is there. Customer should receive this 1,000. That's it. In between,
Okay.
whatever is happening is what we need to learn. That is what we will be
Okay.
learning it. Got it, right?
So ideally for SBI, it is an outward remittance, and for Citi, it's an inward remittance. And again, from
Mm,
Citi to whichever bank in
right.
US, it's either RTGS or NEFT. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So these are all what we are going to learn in our sessions itself. We'll be understanding the various scenarios, use cases where we will see multiple banks involved in this payment chain, where the local payment system will come and how where this international will go, bilateral nostrils would be your right. All those things we are going to learn in our different payment methods in upcoming sessions when we reach out to Swift payment topics, right? So this since I covered this local payment system, I I wanted to give you insight why I covered a bit of local payment system because when you get this kind of scenarios, then you would be able to imagine, okay, this US is there, Central Bank US there, so the payment will not be then sent via the SWIFT, and instead they will use the local clearing and settlement mechanism like FedWire for the respective country, and the payment will be settled like this, right? All right. Did it clarify your doubt? Let me know if you still have a question. I'll again repeat. No, not a problem for me. All right. Great. So don't worry if you have doubts also. We will clarify once we reach to our serial payment. This kind of scenarios will take a lot of it, but I'll be explaining like two banks involved in payments and three banks involved in payments and all these things will cover it. So you'll get more, clarity on it. We didn't even reach out to these topics, so not a problem. We are just uh, ensuring that our basics are clear before we actually dive into Swift payments. Probably Swift payment will start in upcoming session uh, and coming weekend. Right now, we are just brushing our the basics knowledge. Okay, fine then. Now that we know that the key elements of the payment and settlement system, right? And also we saw this net settlement and gross settlement. Sometimes in the interview, they might ask you some basic differences between the net settlement and gross settlement also. Even though you might be knowing it, but at times if you don't have these points in your head, it can go wrong. So just for that sake, I have pointed out some pointers where you can differentiate your net settlement to that of your gross settlement system. Okay. So net settlement, as I said, like the payments are settled in the batches. Have you ever remembered this payment which you receive as a, what do you call it as the salary credit? I'm probably not sure about now, but earlier, some of your colleagues would have received early than that of yours, right? So maybe your transaction was placed in the second batch or third batch. Probably that would be the reason that it processed in the later batch of time, and that's why your credit happened later point of time. So payments are settled in the batches in the net settlement systems, whereas in a gross settlement, it is settled one-to-one basis. Okay. No need to creation of this batch files and all. One message will be sent out directly, immediately, as soon as they receive it from the customer. Net settlement is a time-consuming clearing and settlement that you have already seen earlier days. Now, at least it is a half an hour every batch in NEFT in India. I guess earlier when I remember, so it used to take 1 or 2 days as well, right? Net settlement system in an NEFT payment system, if you remember as well, right? It was not half an hour. Within that half an hour, you get to receive the fund. Now that every thing has been improved, technology has been improved, infrastructure is improved. So this is also getting better and better in India. In fact, India is one of the India's payment system, the varieties of India's payment system which we have it, and the technology wise, it's still ahead compared to many of the other countries around the world, right? In terms of the payments industry or the type of the payment facility it provides, the kind of infrastructure it has, right? Gross settlement is a near real-time clearing and settlement. It would not has to wait longer I believe if you want to make a fund transfer of a gross settlement RTGS system, it gets created within probably a minute, not more than that. Risk is higher in net settlement, whereas gross settlement, the risk is eliminated. Now, what kind of risk I'm talking about, right? So this risk I was telling you, right? This the clearing and settlement mechanism is bearing all the risk. If any of the bank defaults, for an example, bank has defaulted, had to pay the 20 million, 70 million to the account which is held at the central bank, then it is this clearing and settlement mechanism who is bearing the risk, right? Isn't it? So that's there in the net settlement system. So risk is higher and RTGS risk of default is eliminated. Minimum threshold amount for this kind of a payment system is the lowest unit of that particular, I mean, lowest currency unit of that particular country. For an example, in NEFT, it is 1 rupees is the minimum threshold amount, and for the respective country, it would be like that. Whereas for the gross settlement, the minimum threshold amount would be on the higher side. For example, in India, we have RTGS. If you want to make a fund transfer in RTGS system, you would be told like minimum fund transfer amount through RTGS is rupees 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs and above, you would be able to make a payment via this RTGS payment system. Okay. Examples, if you want to see for the net settlement, you have ACH in USD, NEFT in India, and we have gross settlement examples. Fedwire in United States of America. In India, it is called as RTGS. In UAE, it is called as UAFTS. Okay. And likewise, in every country, there is a respective system name for this kind of a payment systems. All right, fine then, guys. If no questions, we'll move ahead. Having said that, we learn about the key elements. These are all three different services. You know, the messaging services is one, the clearing services is other type, and the settlement is other type. These are all three varieties of services in the payment key elements, right? Hey, yes, you're finding trouble in your internet, is it? Seems to be dropping time and again. Yes?
Yes, correct. Yes, correct. Actually, I adopting some issue in my internet.
Ah, okay, no problem. Sure. All right, so as I was saying, like these are all three different services. Now, some of the system around the world, right, they can provide all the varieties of the services which we saw. The messaging services, the clearing services, and the settlement services. Okay. I have listed some of the renowned ones which they provide these kind of services. For example, Swift, as you already know, Swift only provides the messaging services. Right? It does not do the clearing. It does not help you to, do the netting and reconciling your positions, right? It doesn't do that. The job of the Swift is simple. Send me an instruction. I'll pass on those messages to the beneficiary bank or the bank which you have mentioned securely and reliably. That's the job of the Swift and nothing else. To receive the message and send it to the right party securely, reliably, and with high speed. This is the main job of the Swift, and that's why it provides messaging services. There are some system which does provide this message processing as well as the clearing as well. They provide couple of both these two services in one system. So chips in USA, they provide message processing as well as the clearing. Likewise, Euro 1 in SEPA. Settlement alone, for example, which is a this is also a service. Now, this is done by the National Settlement Service, United States of America, which is again under the settlement, which is again under the central bank. So it is the agency within the central bank which does the settlement of the bank in the respective payment system. And then we have this messaging, clearing, and settlement. All these three services, which is done by one payment system, is example chaps in UK, Fedwire in USA. So Fedwire has their one proprietary messaging format. Message processing will be done. Clearing, they do their own clearing for the banks which is participating in the Fedwire system, and the settlement, the movement of the funds happens at the Fedwire system itself. So it provides all three services, right? So these are some of the examples of the entities providing different kind of the services. So when you log into your online banking system, right? Net banking system, online banking system, on your respective channel, retail channel, you will be getting an option. Since you have an account in India, you will be getting an option to make a transfer uh, to the various types. As I was telling it to you, right? If you want to make a fund transfer to a customer who holds an account in the same bank, regardless whether it is of some other branch. For example, I have an account in City India, right? And I want to make a fund transfer to uh, to a customer again who holds an account in India, maybe in Delhi, and I have an account in Chennai, for an example, right? So it is a book transfer. That means it is debiting customer account of the same bank and crediting to a customer account of the same bank, right? So it is a transfer between the bank. So that is called as a book transfer. Then you get an option for you to choose if you want to make a transfer to other bank accounts. You get an option to choose any of whether you want to make a payment by NEFT, IMPS, or RTGS. And then you need to provide all these details like IFSC, name of the beneficiary, customer account number, etc. Right? And then some of the banks, not necessarily all the banks, would give you an option to make a cross-border payment, but definitely a big short bank like Citibank, State Bank of India, DFC, all this big short bank would definitely give you an option to initiate a fund transfer for the cross-border. Okay. When you select this cross-border payment option or this international payment option, then you will be asked to create a beneficiary. And to create a beneficiary, you need to populate these kind of details, which you can see in this front-end application. These are some of the what do you call this important data which you need to manually be populating it in order for you to make the fund transfer. So beneficiary name you have to populate if you want to make a fund transfer to a beneficiary customer who holds an account in the United States. Then account number or the international bank account number you have to populate. I'll explain it to you what is the IBAN and what is account number in a while. And then you will just have to reconfirm this account number and beneficiary bank name, beneficiary bank address, city, country, and the SWIFT code of the bank. Or if it is a United States system, then you need to provide the EBA code, which is routing transit number. Just like your IFSC code in India, they have this respective code. Pay nickname, if you want to add it as one of the beneficiary, you can give some name. It will be shown in the beneficiary. And then beneficiary address, the beneficiary customer address information you can provide in address 1 to zip code, etc. Right? This kind of details you can populate and you can submit a request. While you are initiating a transaction, you would get a note which will have a lot of information saying like you need to provide a valid data, or otherwise if any of the rejection or return happens, then um, the respective charges would be taken from you. You please provide a Swift IBAN for all transactions where IBAN is mandatory. Non-submission will result in return of the funds. You may mention the same in the pay branch, etc. All this thing information would be provided while you are initiating, so that if any of the things goes wrong, at least you should be aware that these are the things because of which the payment got rejected or anything. All right, guys. So that was some of the basics part. Now we'll proceed forward. That whenever a transaction is received, either as a inward transaction or if the transaction is outward from a bank. Now, where does that processing happens? There are things that is happening around, right? When you are initiating a transaction, then your respective bank is doing something. What exactly is being done over there, right? So that's what we are going to learn now, okay? So all your payments which you are initiating from the channels, Okay, let's take this example here. So all this request which is coming from the customer, right? It comes to the bank. Let's say it is State Bank of India. Now within this, there will be several applications. The State Bank of India will have a several application in place wherein they will be doing the processing of the transactions. Okay. Now within the State Bank of India, all this request comes in and they will identify whether it is going for a which transaction queue, whether it is this transaction request is for the RTGS, this transaction is for this Swift, and this is for NEFT, like this, right? So all of these basically will be sent in the respective messaging queue where they will get, and there will be, this is a little technical, there is some RTGS MQ will be there, Swift MQ will be there, the NEFT MQ will be there, right? So this messaging queue for both inward and outward would be then passed on to the respective payment system. Payment hub, basically a payment engine. Payment hub, which is also called as a payment engine. Now, this payment engine then interacts with the different other interfaces of the bank application, like a core banking system. It interacts with this global pricing and billing system. It interacts with the compliance system. System would be there where they just this FX transactions and whatever it is required as well. So these are the different systems which will interact, and then they will process the payment, right? This processing of the payment happens. It will take one by one. They will validate all these rules which has been maintained in this payment engine. If it meets, then finally they will release the transaction to the respective system, whether it to RTGS system, whether it to Swift system, whether it to NEFT system, right? Right. This is the job of the payment engine to receive an instruction to process the payment and then route it to the respective gateways where the respective payment will be processed. So let me explain it to you a detailed, what do you call it as, detailed processing activities which a payment engine does. Okay. Many places it is called as payment hub, many places it is called as payment engine, but it is the same. The idea behind this concept is the same, that to process the payment. It is what its objective is, to process the payment. So payment hub or payment engine is used for processing of different kind of a payments. In our example, we just saw that it can process. This engine would be capable enough to process the varieties of payment, whether it is a cross-border SWIFT payment, or RTGS payment, NEFT payment, IMPS payment, right? There are different kind of payments. So it should be able to capable to process these all different varieties of the payments. There should not be a need of a different payment engine. Now this payment hub thing, right, guys? Nowadays there are plenty of vendors in the market which provides this a payment engine or payment hub services, right? For example, Global Pay Plus, GPP. You would have heard about this. It's a Finastra product which uh, again it does the similar kind of a job, which processes the payment by interacting with the different system, downstream system, other systems like core banking system, FX system, compliance system, etc. Likewise, we have what do you call it as Volante product called as Volante Pay, and then Volpay, right? And there are money transfer system, MTS, which is ACI product. FIS product is there, OPF. TCS product is there, TCS Banks. Infosys product is there. And there are plenty of the vendors which nowadays they are providing this payment hub, a payment engine, right? So they will be pitching into the respective banks, they will be providing their RFPs, and if it meets to the criteria, then they will be uh, taken. Many of the banks, they have their in-house payment engine also, meaning they have developed themselves by them, and it is not renowned outside in the market. But many of the banks, they opt to choose this vendor-based product and they integrate with their system, and then they do the processing of the transaction. Okay. Payment Hub is altogether a different uh, course for you guys, so that we have it as well. Here, whatever is needed, I have covered it, right, for you guys. Since our objective is more on the cross-border payment understanding. So payment engine, as I said, like it is used for processing of different kind of payments, payment processing for high value payment system or low value payment system or the cross-border SWIFT payment system. It performs the end-to-end processing validations. These are intelligent payment engines, right, which will help you to validate to understand whether it needs to be routed to this bank or the other bank, and so on. It support all payment types as we discussed just now, and it is functionally rich, highly configurable. This kind of payment system nowadays, right? You do not need to deploy the codes for every changes here and there, right? So wherever it is required, they have to do it. But these are like configurable. If any of the requirement comes in, then there are certain things they can uh, do via the configuration only. Such kind of flexibility it has, this kind of payment system. Just give me a second, guys. Just give me a couple of minutes break, right? I'll just have water and come back. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right, guys. So hope everyone can see my screen as well. I was just discussing about this payment engine or a payment hub, right? How are they basically? What is its objective? They are functionally ready. It's highly configurable. As I said, like there are a lot of things that can be on a configuration basis. You do not even need to deploy certain codes if such requirement comes in for this regulatory applications or the bank operation side or from the stakeholders which you get it, right? If there are some certain things which is already inbuilt capability of this respective payment engine, then it's easy for you. Persona-based configurable UI are also very fancier as well nowadays for this payment engine like CPP and stuff. Future-proof modernized architecture, liquidity and risk management modules, extensive open APIs and interface library. You know, this connectivity is one of the essential parameter for any of the bank to choose which payment engine to go ahead with, right? Payment hub go ahead with that which can be used for bank processing of the payments. Engine, it easily interfaces with our other applications is one of the important parameter for you to decide whether there are RFPs when you guys are creating the RFPs as well. You need to deal with it, this interface connectivity, how easy it is going to be. If you are from ITBA, then you need to work on this. If you are business BA, you might not have to, but ITBA has to check these things, the connectivity things, uh, whether it is easy to plug in with the APIs or not. So it's all API based, this kind of payment engine technology where you send a request and receive the responses. Okay, so this particular slide helps you to understand when you are initiating a transaction on the respective channel. Then when you're populating all these details from the internet, it goes in the form of the request. It hits as a request. The request can be in a JSON format, right? Internally, or it can be in a XML based format as well, which is a PNG one format, which nowadays many of the bank is utilizing it so that they can process the payment. The below one you can see the JSON format. It goes to the respective server where the payment engine's code is deployed. And on receiving this payment request, then they will start the series of payment related validations. It starts interacting with the different interfaces. Whatever the data is stored in the database, it will fetch in the business logic code which is deployed. Then it starts working one by one. For example, it starts validation of this debtor side account, whether it is active or not, right? Whether the balance is sufficient or not. All these things which I'm going to explain you in a while, they will start validating by interacting with the different interfaces. And finally, they will let customer know whether it is transaction completed and the transaction reference number will be generated, or they will provide this necessary information in the front end application. It says like you have insufficient fund. So responses, they will send it back, right? So the responses, they will send it back in the respective format, which is what internally they have aligned with. For an example, GPP, you know, you can send this global pay plus, you can send this, you can this GPP for invert request, it can hit as a JSON file format. This is how it would come. All the details will go in a JSON format and it will start processing the different activities it has. When I say about this different processing activities, it means a series of validations. It performs some activities, and then finally the payments are then moved forward. What are those activities it performs, this payment agent? So this is not only limited to GPP kind of a payment engine, regardless any payment engine in the industry which you have it. Their job is to perform all this validation, which I'm going to explain it to you. Regardless, whatever payment engine you are going to work, or whatever payment engine or payment hub your bank has it, it performs these activities for sure. Okay, these are some minimum set of activities or the processing validations. Any of the payment engine does it, and it has to do it. These are some basic criterias, right? So I'm going to explain it to you one by one. The first thing is it identifies the debtor and the creditor party and their accounts. When you're, yeah, you have any question?
Sorry.
Mhm. Okay, fine. Identification of the debtor and the creditor party and their accounts. When you're initiating a transaction, guys, right? This particular Raymond Zidane, for an example, uh, its details would be available in their bank, right? For example, they hold this particular customer, Raymond Zidane, holds an account in which the Central Bank France. In their core banking system, this information would be available. The core banking system is a heart, okay, heart of the any bank, okay. It has all the information basically. It has the information about your details of the customer, the account, the balances, and plenty more information. It doesn't only has the information of the accounts and it has information about deposit flows, all the services which it is offering, right? Somewhere it is linked to this core bank system, which it has all this information, right? When I say core banking system, some of the core banking system you would have heard about is like FlexCube or FlexCube, I guess. FlexCube and T24 terminus product would be there, and FIS product is their next gen kind of thing. So plenty of the products again for the core banking system also vendors are providing, and many of the banks they are using or they have developed their own core banking system as well. Again, coming back to our topic, which is identification of the debtor side party and the creditor side party and their accounts. So when the customer is initiating a transaction, its own details, meaning Raymond Jidan's account number, name, address details would be available in their core banking system. So customer do not have to populate their own details when initiating the transaction, right? Later point of time when I'll explain you about the Swift messaging, I'll explain it to you this how this data enrichment happens with the data which customer has populated and some of the data which a bank will automatically populate in the messages. Okay. So it identifies when the customer Raymond Zidane initiates the transaction, the payment engine identifies the name of the ordering customer and its account number and the address details. And likewise, whatever the customer has populated in the front-end application, the beneficiary account number, name, and address, all of this will be extracted, and that's what its job is to identify first of all the identification of the debtors and the creditor side details. That includes account number, name, and address. Next thing is once they have identified the debtor side account number, now what they will do is they will send a request to the core banking system to check whether it is active or not. Okay. So payment engine, once they get to know the customer's debit account number, they will send that debit account number in the form of either JSON or the respective API's format. It hits to the core banking system in the server itself. And as in the form of the response, they will be sending out the response details as well. So from that, they will get to know whether it is active or not. Okay. So this interface is required. That's what I'm saying. No, the payment engine need to have the interface connectivity with the different internal banking system where they can get the information for the processing of the payment. So from the core banking system, it gets received as active, then they will proceed forward the next sort of validation. If there is, if the account is closed or dormant or blocked or something, freeze, then they will send out the respective status and the payment engine will not proceed forward to process the payment and the customer will get notified in the front-end applications. Um, Please reach out to the bank as your account number is closed or blocked and freezed. Kind of this information in the front-end application, they can show it as well. So it checks the account, whether the account is active or not, checks if the debtor account used exists or not for both inward as well as outward as well. For incoming payment, if it is received, then the field 59 or the beneficiary account number mentioned in that message, they will then send it to the core banking system and checks whether this account number is available or not. Right? Payment engine will not know, but core banking system has the details, whether it is even there or not in order to credit it, right? So those things they will do as well. So it validates if the account number is valid or not, it is active or not. And if in case it is closed, blocked, or dormant, it will not allow. Then the next sort of validation is your balance check validations. It's basically your liquidity check validation. If you have sufficient fund for your outward transaction, which you have initiated, this again has the details or receives the details from the core banking system itself. Again, creates a separate request XML or request API or a JSON format they will hit, and as part of that, they will receive the responses, right? And there they will get the different balances which it has, whether it has the overdraft limit, whether it has the covering account feature, whether it has what it does, some other functionality which it is there where they can take the fund from other master account, right? So real account, virtual account, this concept is also there, which we'll discuss later point of time as well. Okay. So all of it fetches out from the core bank system. And if it is a sufficient fund, for example, the payment request is of 1 lakh rupees, and from core banking system it receives its details that it has available balance as 2 lakhs, then it will proceed forward for the next sort of validation. If it is less balance and but it has the overdraft limit available, then it takes from the overdraft limit. And those kind of this validation it does as well, right? Next is your risk related validation, sanction, compliance. This kind of validation happens. Now, you know or not whether the respective banks will have their one system in place. One of the applications where your some set of people will be working is uh, the compliance systems, the sanction compliance screening applications. For an example, there are this particular product is quite popular around the world, which is called as Firco Continuity, which provides this services or a product, right, wherein the transactions risk is monitored, right, where you can get to know whether any sort of risk is associated to the transactions or not. Now, when I say about the risk related to transaction, what kind of risk? Terrorist funding, anti-money laundering, these are some sort of the risk which are there in any international cross-border payments. Okay, so not necessarily this kind of applications will be 100% robust and 100% providing the result. There are separate ways, there are varieties of ways this can be happen, right? So to the must know basis on the data which they receive in their respective payment messages, right? This kind of applications would be able to monitor if any risk is associated. For an example, there are some hit list or hit words which has been defined in some international risk systems, which in every payment system they have added in. So for an example, if you see a transaction being done with the name of Osama anywhere in the transaction, whether it be in the address or whether it be in the beneficiary account number, right? So that transaction will eventually be parked into this risk queue. It will not be straight through, right? It's straight through. It will be parked into operations queue, and then the investigation operation user will come and then investigate the transaction. If they find suspicious transaction in this particular thing, then the necessary action will be taken, whether it will be informed to the local judiciary or something, right? And the transaction will be freezed for time being, right? If it is identified as some sort of risk. Otherwise, the necessary investigation will be done quickly and the payment will be released if there is no risk. Now, there are some countries which is sanctioned countries. If you are making a transaction to the sanctioned countries, then again, this particular transaction will be parked into the respective queue and the necessary action will be done by this respective operation user. So there are various algorithms, roles which is defined in this kind of a system, right? Wherein for both outward payment going from your bank as well as the inward payment coming from some other bank, they first has to go into this system where the message data are basically consumed by these systems, and they understand that the basis on the rules and algorithms and the codes which is deployed, they will validate if there is any sort of risk. It also is capable enough to identify the anti-money laundering. The anti-money laundering can happen from different accounts. Okay, guys, different account, but the system will have this all this data, history data, and basis that they will try to identify if it is a possible risk, if it is a possible anti-money laundering transaction. the people who are doing this multiple transaction from different account to the same account for some other purpose, these are some chances that there are a lot of logic. In fact, it is built in this AML systems like welcome continuity, wherein you can catch such kind of transactions, and they are able to, right? Not 100%, but to the most for sure. So this is one of the important bank's internal applications, which it has to ensure that they have to identify the possible risk associated to transactions, so that this kind of activities is stopped, like terrorist funding or anti-money laundering and such activities. Okay, so this information, whether it has any sort of risk or not, is identified by these applications, which is again interface with that of your payment engine. It is a payment engine jobs to send out this payment datas, the data which it has received from the customer from the front-end application channel or via the inward request, inward transaction message, right? They have to send these data to the respective system, and this, after consuming these data, they will run this algorithm and they will send out back to this payment engine whether it has any risk or not. Low risk, medium risk, high risk, this kind of queues they can create it for the operation users where they can manually intervene into it. So operation user will be doing this investigation if it falls into this queues. That's when you would have heard about this operations user working for this investigation or this KYC analyst or email analyst or risk analyst. Then we have this FX conversion, right? So FX conversion is what? So whenever you are making a payment, right, for outward transaction which you are making, in that case, the FX rates can be applied. Now I'll take you an example here. So this is a customer, let's say Ram is there, who holds an account in, let's say, State Bank of India. Okay. This Ram's account in State Bank of India is in INR, right? Let's say INR account is there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then balance equal to INR 1 lakh. Now, if the customer wants to make a fund transfer, the payment currency, if it chooses in the channel USD 1000, basis on this payment currency, this INR to USD FX rate is applied, right? Now, this FX rates basically are consumed from the respective systems. Feeds would be, every there will be a respective FX system, right? The name can be different from different bank. It can be in-house product again. They can consume this live rates from the market, and basis that this FX application FX rates will send out one rate to the payment engine. Now, this FX rate application will also have their bank's margin rate. Like a bank makes profit when they are providing this foreign cross-border transactions. For each unit, they make some minimum variation, right? Some differences, they make a profit out of it. Okay. So buying of the currency and the selling of the currency things happens in this cross-border payment. For example, if the customer is in having an account in INR, using the INR account, if they want to make a fund transfer in USD, so basically this customer is purchasing USD and selling INR. This is how we would be explaining it to someone who wants to understand technically or this banking terminologies. It's just that you are buying the USD currency and you are selling this INR currency. So for that, you will be given the exchange rate
By the
for
way, are
that.
you sharing your screen? Sorry. Are you
Yes,
sharing your
yes,
screen?
yes.
We are seeing only, at least I'm able to see only a blank screen. Do you mind stop sharing and resharing again?
I've been sharing from a while. Guys, is it only happening with Mugesh or with everyone?
We could see the screen. I mean, I could see the screen.
Yeah, we're able to see screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Let me raise here for you, Maurice. No problem. Let me know,
Yeah, now
Maurice,
I'm
if you are
able to
able to
see.
see.
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Okay, no problem. Maybe some system glitch. Yeah, so I was just telling you about this FX conversions, right? So I have just taken an example here. Ram holding an account in INR currency, but he wants to make a fund transfer in USD. Payment currency is in USD. Maybe probably he wanted to make a fund transfer to one of his friend who lives in United States of America, right? And that he holds an account in Sirius Bank, let's say, right, Sam? Okay. So banks will have their internal applications like FX systems. Name can be various rates, where they will consume the respective FX rate for the day. Now, again, in FX rates also, we have multiple things. First of all, this is how this details would be there, right? Where a customer get to see in the front end application while initiating the transaction in the channel, these many details you have to populate if it is a cross-border payment. Now, for the retail customer, you don't need to populate a debit account number. But if it is a corporate customer or the commercial customer where they have a multiple accounts with the bank for the various reasons, there are the corporate customer can have the millions, even thousands. Some of the corporate customer will have 10, 20. It depends. So they can select the debit account number from the drop down. But for the retail customer, you don't have this option because you have only one account, so you don't need to select any of the account number. Then you have this beneficiary name you have to populate, the beneficiary account number you have to populate if you want to make a cross-border payment, beneficiary address, beneficiary SWIFT code, beneficiary bank address. The payment date you can select, the payment date you get an option to select. You would be allowed to initiate a transaction for future dated also. For example, you wanted to make a transfer after 10 days, probably on 24th of December, but you might forget. So that's why you will initiate now and for time being, and you'll keep it. So it will be parked into future date queue. We'll see in this later point of time as well. That option would be there in your front end application in the channel while you are initiating the transaction. Then you have this payment amount. Then you have this debit amount. So payment amount and debit amount, you know, basically if you're providing one information, other will be automatically calculated. How? For example, if the customer's account is in GBP, so customer if provides like 100 GBP and basis that FX rate will be applied, and then the payment currency whichever he has selected, it will be applied and this will be calculated. So in between this FX rates come into picture, right? This FX rate is what they will receive it, consume it from the FX system, right? Then you'll be seeing that exchange rate on GBP equal to this much of 100 and or whatever information will be there in the label. And then customer reference will be there, which is a payment details, which will be for only for remittance information basically, which will go to the beneficiary customer. And the charge type you have to select in the front end itself. For the cross-border payment, you have to either bear all the charges on your side or bear the beneficiary should bear all the charges, or it should be split between yourself and the beneficiary customer. So those information, our bin and size also there. So these all things we will discuss it in a while. In the front end application, this is what and how you would be able to see while you're initiating cross-border transactions. Okay. And then you'll click on submit. And later this all details which you have populated in the front end application will be enriched into the message and will be sent out to the Swift network. That we will see once we reach out to the actual course topic, Swift payments, right? So FX rate is what we were looking for, right? So FX validation, right? This FX will be, just give me a second. Where is the line, the note? Fine. Yeah. So let's take an example over here. Okay. So I have taken an example where a customer has wants to make a fund transfer of certain amount. Okay. In the front end application, there are two kinds of exchange rate which a customer can get to see. For a retail customer, guys, you will be able to see this live rate, right? Live rate, which wherein the bank has taken its margin, so which is called as spot FCY. Okay, spot FCY, that rate would be sent to you, and it will also be mentioned in your front end application that if every 60 seconds or 90 seconds or 180 seconds, the rate gets refreshed. The rate which you will be able to see in your initiation screen of the channel will be available only for either 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 180 seconds, and it gets refreshed again, right? So that will be there. So that is called a spot FCY, and you will be able to see the exchange rate in your front end application. So bank is still making a profit margin in that. Okay. So maybe in the live, if you see in the Google, you might see this 22.77 for one AED equal to 22.77 INR. Okay. But for a customer, they will get to see only 22.67. So 0.10 might be the margin which a customer is taking. I mean, a bank is taking. So it's still a huge margin, but for a retail, since you will be transferring not more funds, so that is fine for them. But imagine if a big shot corporate customer like Reliance is trying to make a fund transaction, right? And they want to transfer like huge amount, like let's say 100 million AED, they want to make a fund transfer to City AE, okay, from State Bank of India's account. Now Reliance has an account in INR currency, okay. So in that case, what Reliance will do is they will have the relationship manager for each of the corporate customers. So the they will reach out to a corporate customer. They will have this meeting. Since it's a huge amount, the bank is anyway making a profit. So by losing 0.10 for each, I mean that for Reliance 0.10 difference using this spot FCY rate, it is becoming like how much? Probably 10,000 dirhams per 100 million, probably 10,000 or 1 lakh, I don't know, whatever it is. It's a huge amount for them. So what they will say is to reach out to State Bank of India relationship manager and say like, I want to make a fund transfer for 100 million for my one trade import or export, right? So as part of that, I don't want to utilize this your normal rates which you are offering in your system. I want some special rate on that. So what this State Bank of India will be doing is, since it's a privileged customer, an important corporate customer, they don't want to um, make unhappy as well, right? And also they are making profit anyway, so they will give some discount in terms of the rates instead of getting this much of difference. So they will define in their core banking system, State Bank of India, in their core banking system, they will define. It's take an example of this Swiggy or any of the Zomato, this coupon code where they apply and the respective discount will be applicable for that. So like that kind of this FX deal reference number will be generated from the core banking system of the State Bank of India for this particular customer, and it will be given to them, and they will select you can utilize for another 1 hour or 2 hour or 2 days, 1 day, and basis that the parameters would be defined in this, saying like for 100 million AED transaction, the exchange rate would be uh, the difference on the live rate, percentage wise they can define it, right? So if in case they have taken 0.03 percentage as a margin rate, then they can define a 0.02 as a margin rate, a 0.01 is a margin rate. And with this FX deal reference number, it will be 16 character long, right? Alphanumeric, which will be uniquely generated by the core banking system. The customer has to, in the front end application, they have to populate it. So as I was showing it to you, right, in the core banking, sorry, in the front end application, here somewhere FX contract. Yeah, this is where after payment amount, there is FX contract reference. There is one field. If you populate it, the respective exchange rate would be applied, which is been defined for this particular customer. Okay. It's not like everyone can just populate and utilize this exchange rate, better exchange rate. No, it will be defined only for this customer. For this debit account, they will be, or the SIFs, they would be defining this exchange rate. So the Reliance can enjoy these facilities, which is being offered by the bank. So the left hand side, which I showed it to you, it is like a spot FCY. The right hand side, which I am explaining it to you, is the FX contract yield reference. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions, guys, in this. As if you don't speak up, I'll assume that you are understanding everything. Okay, that's what I'll assume it. So even if you have a very basic questions, you can also
So
talk,
this
because until
FX,
unless you clear out all the, yeah, go ahead, Abdul.
this FX rate will be applicable for each transaction, right? For each cross-border payment. So
Cross
whatever the
currency,
payment,
yes.
so it'll auto populate in all the payment fronted whenever the customer is making the payment. Is it this FX rate? So it'll customer can be able to see what is the rate today, and then he can, I mean, they will
Correct.
be able to make the payment.
Correct. They will be able to see in
Okay.
the front end application. Yes,
Okay.
they will be able to.
Yeah, you said that any customer can make a future payment as well. Like in case if I want to make the debit after 1 week, now
Correct.
can we fix a rate now for the
No,
future payment?
no, we cannot. So all they can do is you can initiate a transaction, and you will be also notified while you are initiating the transaction. The fund will be debited on the respective date, and the respective exchange rate will be applied. So for the future date, today's exchange rate cannot be used. So it will be there in their queue, right? Future dated queue. The customer would be able to see in the front end application. For a retail customer, I'm not sure whether this option is there or not. For corporate customer, for sure, this option is there, where they can initiate a transaction for the future dated, and it will be available in their summary tab or somewhere. And on that respective date, that transaction will automatically get executed. The respective exchange rate would be applied for that specific day. The respective amount will be debited if the sufficient fund is available. Otherwise, it will get rejected, saying like you did not have the sufficient fund to process the future transaction.
Okay.
Okay. Let me know if you feel like I'm speaking a little fast also. Your feedback is required at times. Okay. Until unless you don't tell me, I'll not able to, adjust basis your batch. Okay. Hope everything is understandable, because uh, if you don't, then further to the future sessions, it will be difficult. That's why I want to ensure this basics you understand it. Okay, fine. So this is one of the validation as well. So as I was saying it to you, there is a respective FX system application available in place in your bank, where again the payment engine or the payment hub interacts in order to receive this kind of exchange rate. Right? Whatever the customer has populated in the front end application, the payment amount or debit amount, basis that the exchange rate will be fetched in, and the calculation happens at the payment engine. Okay. Next validation a payment engine or a payment hub does it's related to a payment processing, sorry, what is called a fee calculation. Now, for each of the transaction, as I was just showing it to you here, the customer chooses an option who is going to bear the charges. Now, there is a concept of this hour, ben, sa. These are like important topic which I have kept it for you guys, where you will understand what happens when a customer chooses hour as a charge type. What amount the ordering customer is going to be debited, and what is that amount that is going to be credited to the beneficiary customer, right? So basis on the customer who has initiated a transaction, choosing one of the charge type, this accounting this will vary. Okay. That we will discuss in deep in our upcoming sessions as well. But there will be a application wherein they will interact to fetch out the charges associated to this transaction. There will be a sender bank charges, there will be the beneficiary bank charges, you know, correspondent bank charges, all those information would be there. But ordering bank side, what is the charges for this auto debitance, that they can get it from the respective billing and pricing system. by interacting, by sending the APIs or the JSON files. With respect to that, they will receive this charges, and the payment engine will again take that portion of the charges from the customer's account. Okay. So this charge type, right, we'll understand in a detailed session. 1.5 hour session is there, but we'll understand end-to-end business flow of a Ben charge type, shared charge type, and hour charge type as well. Next sort of validation which a payment engine or a payment hub does it is validating warehousing and future dated payments. Just now what we were discussing, right? If it's a future dated transaction, then they will warehouse this particular transaction into manual intervention queue, sorry, future dated queue, and automatically on that respective date, this payment will be processed. Okay. So this is another validation with the payment engine does it. We have still so many validations to be covered since we are almost on our time, and I have another batch to take as well. So let's wind up the session for today, guys. Right? We have some more, like some 10 more validations the payment engine does. And post that, we will start our actual topic, which is SWIFT, which is meaning the cross-border payment. Right? So this is all the basic things which we are learning right now. The main thing is to come. That will start from the coming weekend. That's it for the day, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Or else let's wind up the session and let's join back in the coming weekend to learn more on the SWIFT payment and the cross-border payments.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye bye.
Have a great day. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.